I swear something inside me shattered that night, quietly, like a snow-covered branch giving way under too much weight. It started with a sound I knew too well. A laugh. Her laugh. The soft, musical one I used to fall asleep to back when we were still us. But that evening, it wasn't meant for me. It drifted from the opposite side of the table, where my wife, Emily, leaned toward another man, her fingers casually sliding along his forearm as if they belonged there. We were attending her company's annual celebration. She'd asked me to join, though looking back, it felt more like an obligation than an invitation. Her boss, Tyler, the big shot who loved hearing himself talk, was hosting a private dinner to celebrate some major deal. It was the kind of event filled with overpriced wine and people pretending to be more important than they were. Emily thrived in places like that. Me. I stuck out like a stain on white linen. I fix vac units. I don't charm executives or trade empty compliments. I repair things that don't work. But that night, the one thing I couldn't repair was the widening crack in my marriage. Relax, Daniel, Emily murmured, giving me the polished, practiced smile she saved for crowds. You look like you'd rather be anywhere else. That's not wrong, I muttered. You've spent half an hour glued to that guy. You've barely looked my way. She rolled her eyes just enough for only me to see. Seriously? Not this again. He's a coworker. Am I not allowed to talk to someone without you turning into some jealous stereotype? I'm not jealous, I started, I just. She cut me off without missing a beat, still smiling for the room but glaring daggers at me. Then stop looking like you're about to start a fight. I stared at her. Her lipstick flawless, her dress stunning, her perfume warm and familiar. I used to love seeing her like that. But that night, all I saw was someone who no longer saw me at all, someone who looked more alive in another man's presence than in her husband's. I tried to breathe through it, tried not to let it get to me. But then Tyler bent closer, whispered something into her ear, and she laughed, really laughed, and leaned in even further. My grip tightened on my glass until I thought it might splinter in my hand. Then she turned to me. Her smile stayed fixed, but her eyes were ice. If you're that jealous, she said quietly, her tone sweetened with poison, you can go home. The words sliced right through me. Go home if you're jealous, she repeated, like a challenge. So I did. I got up, grabbed my coat, and walked out without saying a word. The drive back was hollow, just the sound of tires on asphalt and her voice echoing in my head. Go home if you're jealous. It didn't sound like permission. It sounded like rejection. When we first married, she used to cling to my arm at events, proudly showing me off. This is my husband, Daniel, she'd tell people, eyes sparkling. He can fix anything. But after her promotion, after the fancy new friends and shinier lifestyle, the pride faded. She stopped introducing me with warmth. I became just Daniel, the one who didn't fit into her glossy world. I parked outside our house and sat there, staring at the empty passenger seat. My phone buzzed several times, friends, co-workers, but not her. She didn't even check if I'd made it home safely. I hardly slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her leaning into Tyler, heard that laugh that wasn't mine anymore. By 2 a.m., something in me finally gave way. I wasn't jealous anymore. I was exhausted. If she wanted distance so badly, I'd give her all the space she could ever need. When she finally stumbled in at 3:47 a.m., I pretended to be asleep. I heard her heels tapping across the floor, stopping near the bed. There was a faint mix of whiskey and a man's cologne lingering around her, nothing I recognized. She hesitated for a moment, mumbled something under her breath, then tiptoed into the bathroom. The shower turned on. That's when I noticed the smear of lipstick on her collar, darker than the shade she wore earlier. My stomach twisted. I wanted to confront her, demand an explanation, shout, "Why are you doing this to us?" But instead, I waited. Morning would be enough. As dawn crept in, I quietly made coffee and packed a small bag, clothes, tools, a few keepsakes. Then I set my wedding ring next to her favorite mug on the counter. By the time she woke up, I was already gone. At 8:32 a.m., my phone began buzzing. Her name. Over and over. I ignored it. Then the text started. Daniel, where are you? Daniel, we need to talk. Why would you leave like that? This isn't funny. By noon, the calls were non-stop. When I finally answered, her voice trembled. Daniel, where the hell are you? At peace, I said quietly. What does that even mean? It means you told me to go home if I was jealous. I did. And now I'm staying gone. Daniel, stop being ridiculous. You embarrassed me last night, getting up and leaving like that. People asked where you disappeared to. Maybe you should have just told them I left because you ordered me to, I replied. She didn't speak for a moment. When she finally did, her tone was softer, almost careful. Daniel, you're blowing this out of proportion. I didn't do anything wrong. A humorless chuckle escaped me. Nothing wrong? Emily, you walked in at nearly 4 in the morning reeking of a cologne I don't wear. Do you really think I wouldn't notice? That's not what you think, she blurted. Tyler spilled his drink on me. He was drunk, okay? That's why I smelled like that. I showered when I came home, didn't I? Her excuse was too fast, too polished, like she'd practiced it on the way home. Sure, I said flatly. Just like you forgot to call when you got there. Or didn't bother to look for me when I walked out. You're twisting everything, she snapped. You always make me feel like some kind of villain when all I'm trying to do is have a life. Then go live it, I said, barely above a whisper. But don't expect me to stand here pretending our marriage isn't breaking apart. Silence. Then her voice came back small, uncertain. Where are you going to stay? Does it matter? I answered. You didn't care where I was last night. I ended the call. That day, I drove to my brother's cabin 2 hours away. No service, no buzzing notifications, just stillness. The kind of stillness that forces every buried emotion to climb to the surface. I spent the first night on the porch, staring up at the stars, trying to pinpoint the moment when love between us turned into doubt, when shared laughter faded into empty conversations. The truth hit harder than I wanted to admit. I'd been fighting for a version of Emily that existed only in my memories. The next morning, my phone finally picked up a signal, one voicemail. Her voice sounded different this time, fragile. Daniel, call me, please. I didn't mean the things I said. I was drunk and stupid. I shouldn't have told you to leave. A shaky breath. I don't even know why I flirted with him. It meant nothing. But when you walked out, it felt like everything collapsed. Please come home. We can fix this. For a moment, I almost broke. Almost. But then I remembered the coldness in her eyes that night. The way she dismissed me without hesitation. That wasn't one mistake, it was the result of years of slow, intentional drift. So I sent her one final message. You told me to go home if I was jealous. I finally listened. But I realized home isn't with you anymore. Weeks slid by. She called a few more times, then stopped. Mutual friends later mentioned she resigned shortly after the whole incident. Apparently her behavior with Tyler spread around the office. A slice of karma, maybe. As for me, I moved into a small rental, went back to my job, and started piecing myself back together. The hurt didn't vanish, it still catches me sometimes, especially when I remember her laugh and how it used to feel like it belonged in my life. But it doesn't control me anymore. Because the night she told me to go home, she thought she was hurting me, pushing me away out of spite. She didn't realize she was actually releasing me from a love that had already died long before that dinner. And that freedom was worth more than anything she could have given me.